one. Sorry guys, I was trying to do the intro music, but I messed that up. So welcome into today's Splittin Twigs episode. Sorry, I kind of messed up that intro, but today we are here with Jean-Luc. I'm super excited to get this podcast rolling. So without further ado, let's welcome him in. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Go ahead.
You're bad at this.
Yeah, I always.
It was your exits. Now it's your intros.
I'm so awkward at the beginning because it's like we're not into a conversation yet, so I don't know how to start it.
So Jean-Luc Grand Pierre, former NHL player. You've played for the Buffalo Sabres, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the very short-lived Atlanta Thrashers, and the Washington Capitals. You got some coaching history in you, and you also are a real estate agent.
Yes.
And a Fox sports analyst for the NHL.
Correct.
How do you do it all?
Well, it's so I'm not wearing all the hats anymore. So the coaching is, no more coaching for me. So I'm just strictly real estate, and then doing the analysis for the Blue Jackets game here in Ohio with. Former Fox Sports, now it's called Bally Sports Ohio. So that's the name of they changed all the sports regional network to Bally now. So that's who I work for. So yeah, it's not too complicated, honestly. It's just about time management.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Everybody's like, oh, you do all this stuff. It must be so hard, but it's really just about time management. Like you said, just really taking it one step at a time,
So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and how you come into the world of hockey.
So I grew up in Montreal, Canada. So my parents immigrated from Haiti, that would be in the 70s, and then they met in Montreal, got married, and I was born there. And how I got into hockey, really, it was just I was surrounded by it. So Montreal is, as many of you guys know, is the mecca of hockey. Whether it's in Montreal, Toronto, anywhere in Michigan and north, moving to Canada, that's the sport. So I grew up playing street hockey in my neighborhood with all my friends. And then after a little bit, I was like, hey, you know what? I'd love to do a little hockey in the winter when the season allows us to do it. And that's how I really got started with hockey.
That's awesome. Yeah, hockey, a lot of players start really young, but Chase, he just started skating a couple years ago, and he's already on travel teams and working his way up the ranks a little bit. He had a pretty nasty injury last summer, but he's kind of overcome that. He broke his leg in a couple spots, and he's definitely bouncing back.
Yeah, that's not fun, but it's part of the sport, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't matter how late you start. I think it's really about how passionate you are about it, and you take it as far as you want and as far as you can. And for me, it was the same thing. I started actually playing hockey when I was 8, and most people, especially in Montreal, people start at they're on skate by the time they're 4 years old, barely knowing how to walk, and they're already on skate. So I was definitely a late starter, but you know what? Found a way to make it.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Yeah, like you said, it's just more about will than when you start, obviously you're going to have to work a lot harder if you start skating a lot later, because there's a lot of skills that other people have learned a lot younger that you haven't learned yet. So it's hard in that aspect, but if you really want to put your mind to it, it's really easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a high school coach, I know for a lot of youth hockey players right now, tryout season's right around the corner. It's, there's no real off season for hockey, as you experience as well. As a coach and both as a NHL analyst, what do you think is more important, or what do you guys really look for in youth players coming up when you're looking to build a team?
Well, it's a little tricky. So for high school, I would say, obviously you gotta look at the talent level, but a lot of time you gotta look at the dedication of the players. And you talked about being a 12 months a year sport, almost hockey now, which I think is not a good thing. I really, I'm a big proponent on, trying different sports and playing, multi-sport athletes. And I grew up playing hockey, but I did not touch my hockey equipment from probably mid-April until like September. It was all soccer for me in the summer, and then when fall came and soccer season was over, I'd go in the basement and find my hockey gear. But I literally did not touch my gear all summer until I was probably around 16 years old. My first year of junior is when I started skating in the off season. But I think especially for young athletes, don't focus just on one sport. You can love hockey all you want, but whether it's lacrosse, it's baseball, it's soccer, find something else for, to help with conditioning and, eye and coordination. So I think playing multiple sports, even golf, which sounds crazy, but golf is such a mind game. It's great for hockey players as well. And I think, yes, you can love the sport all you want, but don't dedicate every minute of it to just one sport. Really, spread your wings, and who knows, maybe you'll be better at another sport. You'll like another sport more than hockey. So the number one thing for me, for high school players, I look at their dedication to the sport, their discipline, and then obviously what they can bring to the team. But at the high school level, it's a little more complicated because you got grades that come into it as well. So we also look for good students, because nothing is worse than having to spend to suspend a player that's a really good player on your team halfway for a year, and you have to suspend them because of grades. So that's what I looked for when I was coaching.
Yeah, that's definitely important, the grades. And that's what I kind of like about my organization. They actually like check grades and do grade checks and stuff to make sure that everybody's passing. I think you can have like 1 or 2 C's, but everything should be above a C typically. And like if it's like 1 C in like math or something, they don't mind. But if you have like C's in every class or a D or an F, then you're not going to play. And you use practices as study hall. So you still come to practices, but you use the practices to study and to get your grades and stuff like that. And also going into what you were talking about like the different sports and playing different sports, I find that like interesting, because most people say that. And right now I'm strictly playing hockey, but I've always wanted to try baseball, so maybe I'll try that.
Yeah, you definitely should. Yeah, tap your dad on the shoulder and tell him to put you in something else than just hockey. I think it's great, honestly, because for me, I've seen so many guys get burnt out by the sport, and I could see it. I mean, by the time I retired, I've played hockey for over like 20 years in my life, really. And it's just like, I couldn't imagine having to play that one sport. And it doesn't matter how much you love it. At some point, you're just going to get like fed up with it. And you don't want that, especially for, teenagers. And I've seen so many players that were very promising, but they got pushed so much into the sport that it was a 24/7 thing, 12 months a year, and it became an obligation. When you're 16, 17, you shouldn't have to be pushed to go to the arena. You should want to go yourself, and there's no way you want to go every single day for 12 months a year. It's not exactly possible.
And I remember somebody out here in Arizona, I don't know exactly who, I think it was one of my friend's parents, but they said, when you're sick of waking up at 5 a.m. for 5 a.m. practices and are not enthusiastic about going to those anymore, that's when you should just stop playing hockey and find a new sport.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with hockey is, like, obviously ice time is very sparse, and it's hard to squeeze it in, unlike any other sport. So yes, there's a lot of early morning practices, late nights, late studies, but that's part of the sacrifice. And again, we're not talking about sacrifice to make to the NHL, but I think it's great discipline down the line, because these lessons that you learn at an early age in any sport are great once you get into the workforce later in life.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, that's exactly what Brian Abel was talking about when we had him on the podcast. He was talking about how playing hockey really helped him in the workforce and everything. And also going into what you were saying, I definitely agree with you on that. Yeah.
Good. We're agreeing on a lot. I like that. I like where this is going.
Thank you.
So coming up the ranks, obviously you were drafted into the NHL, and that's a huge accomplishment for anybody. But what route did you take? Did you play juniors? Did you play college? What did your route moving up look like?
So my route was actually pretty interesting, and like I said, I was kind of under the radar. Growing up, I was never the best player on my team, whether it was in Pee Wee or Bantam. I was just a good player, but not the best player, that's for sure. And somehow I got drafted as an underage into the major junior. And so I was 16 years old. So I just finished my second season Bantam, and then moved on and made the team in junior, which was unexpected. I was expecting to just go to camp and then go play midget triple A or something like that, and then I ended up sticking there. So I kind of got spring forward into the junior career, which I played my 16-year-old, 17-year-old season, and then after my 17-year-old season, I got drafted in St. Louis. So the St. Louis Blues actually drafted me, and I was a late draft round pick because I was I was seventh round pick, which is pretty late. Back then there was 9 rounds, so I was like toward the end. I was originally ranked as a third rounder, but I had a lot of injuries my draft year, so that did not help. So that was definitely a big motivation for me. And then after the draft, then I think I played 2 more years of juniors and then turned pro after that.
Awesome. We have a question from one of our viewers, Todd. He's also our producer who's at home quarantined right now.
His name is Todd? I thought.
But at what point did you realize that you wanted to make hockey a career?
So when I was 16, I had to pick between soccer and hockey because I had actually had a national camp for soccer, which happened to be in Mexico at the same time as training camp for hockey. So at this point, that's when my dad said, as much as I love you playing 2 sports, you got to pick one now because you can't be in Mexico and in Canada at the same time. So that's when I picked hockey. And it was not a career thing for me. It was more like, as much as I love soccer, I just felt like hockey was more my cup of tea. And when I realized I could make a career with it, honestly, when I got drafted. So probably when I was 17, I was 18 years old. So that's when I really started thinking about it, because before that, you dream about it a little bit, but I was pretty grounded, and my parents always instilled in me that school is number one. So I was really more focused on my studies than hockey. But once I got drafted, I definitely felt like, all right, I guess if they see something in me, I should probably start, working toward that goal because it's feasible. So that's
Right.
So I would say about 18 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, you see a lot of these kids getting drafted at like 17, 18 years old, because you see like a lot of the players who played, for example, in the World Juniors Cup for the IFH. I don't know what it is.
IIHF.
Yeah. You see a lot of these kids who are like 17 because it's the under 18 one, and you see a lot of these kids already drafted by teams. Like they're talking about, oh yeah, they're gonna go play up for the Hurricanes or the Capitals or the Blue Jackets next year, and it's kind of cool because all these kids are already drafted and signed NHL contracts, but they're not up there yet, and it's just cool that they get to go up there. Like knowing that thought that, oh yeah, next year I get to play in the NHL.
Yes, and most of these guys are high draft picks, like first rounders. So, I'm not saying that they got it easy, but there's definitely more certainty when you're a first round draft pick versus a 7th round draft pick, because they say you have to earn everything you get, and that's like that for everyone. But sometimes as a first rounder, you get a few more opportunities. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So Sandra, one of our viewers up in Michigan as well, says Mexican sunshine or Canadian snow. You must really like hockey if you've chosen the snow. I definitely agree. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, hence the Buffalo Sabres jersey. I worked for them for a little bit when I was in high school. And yeah, I miss the snow, but I'm telling you what, man, this life down here in Phoenix is not bad at all. When I can December and January be out on the lake, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I bet it is. But when you're 16 years old and you're from Canada in a way, it's like, Mexico can wait, I guess.
Exactly.
Right?
I do not like Arizona heat. I've lived here off and on for most of my life because my grandparents lived here, and I have been here for so long. I absolutely hate the heat. You know how like some people grow up in the cold and then they want to move somewhere hot because they get sick of the cold? Well, I want to move somewhere cold because I'm sick of the hot.
I'll talk to me in about 25 years. See how you feel when you live in Buffalo.
Oh man, I don't know if you've been back to Buffalo lately, but man, the Harbor Center downtown, the canal side where they built the skating rinks and stuff actually on the lake is just incredible. I was there a couple years ago and it has changed a lot, but it is really nice down there now.
Yeah, they did a great job with, like the arena district, I guess is what you could call it, the Harbor Center. Yeah, so it's kind of fun what NHL teams have been able to build around their arenas. Columbus did that, and here they call the arena district, and they built a baseball stadium, and now the Columbus Crew, the MLS team, is getting a new stadium right behind as well. So it's really fun to see what Buffalo was able to do because, obviously Buffalo's a huge hockey market, and they definitely took advantage of it.
Absolutely. So being from Montreal and then making it into the NHL, and as big as a hockey city as Montreal is, what was it like the first time you stepped in an NHL jersey onto the ice in your hometown in front of everybody that you knew growing up? What did that feel like?
It was really fun. I remember in warm-up just seeing so many familiar faces, and it's funny because, Montreal has, it's multi-million, as far as population in the city, but somehow I could spot some of my high school friends, teachers, and like family members out of the 20,000 people in the crowd, like super easily. So that was definitely a great feeling.
Dang. Yeah. I feel like when you truly like know somebody or really close with somebody, it's actually really easy to pick them out of like a crowded area.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's you talk to your parents and find out where they're going to be sitting to make sure you can, wink at them or whatever after the game. But, of course, you're going to look before that. So there you are in warm-up looking for your parents. So it's a little bit of a distraction, but it's definitely a great feeling. It happens once in your lifetime, so you got to take advantage of it.
And I imagine at that point in your life and in your career, you're probably past the point where mom and dad, they have to yell and make sure when you have the puck to shoot. They got to make sure that to shoot the puck when you're skating with it, right?
Yeah, well, you see, and that's the other thing that I had the advantage of is my dad, he did watch hockey, but he didn't grow up, watching the sport because from, in Haiti, it's not like they have any kind of ice hockey over there. So he just basically brought me to the rink and brought me home after. And my mom actually hates hockey. I think she maybe saw me play like 7 or 8 games my whole life. Like I'm talking
Really?
From when I was a squirt until I played in the NHL. She's not a big fan of the game. She thinks it was too violent and there was too many injuries. So she never really liked it. So I didn't have to worry about hearing my parents yelling from the stands. I think I just let the other parents do that.
Yeah, that's what's happened with my mom. My mom, I mean, I played in summer house league for fun, and I played really bad because you have those off days and you have the good days. I had a really off day, and I got yelled at the entire way home. It was an evaluation because everybody makes it, and then I go with my dad, and my dad doesn't even walk into the rink. My dad just sits in his truck, plays on his phone, and then he drives me there and drives me back every morning because I go to 7 a.m. practices for an hour to 2 hours. And yeah, he just takes me there, drops me off at the front. I eat an Uncrustable in the locker room, then I eat one after and go. And then, yeah, we just go.
Yeah, I think it's great. And that's, something else that, having coached at the high school level, you realize like these kids have a coach already. And on top of them, you have their parents that are in their ear 24/7, letting them know what to do. It's like, let the coach do the job. And as a player, just listen to your coach. As a parent, I think the best thing to do is if your kid wants to talk to you about something that happened in the game or, in practice and wants to ask you for tips, then you can go there. But you should be the one that's like coaching your kid from the sidelines because it's just there's enough distraction when you're skating 100 miles an hour and you try to dangle a puck and there's 3 guys chasing you to take your head off, and then on top of it you have the coach yelling. The last thing you want to worry about is your parents telling you to do something else. So for me, as a parent, I'm like your dad. Listen, my son plays hockey and I'll go watch the games, and I bring him to the rink. I don't watch practice, and if he has something to ask me, I'll tell him some observation in the cars, but during the game, and I'm not talking about hockey, the whole right there or anything like that, because for me, that's not how I grew up. My dad didn't do it to me, and I think that's how I thrive, because I just listened to my coach and took it upon myself to make it happen, not on other people's tips, etc.
I saw this really funny hockey meme, and it was like in the NHL stadium, this guy got on a breakaway and all the fans are yelling at him to shoot the puck, and it was like an up close on the player, and he said I wonder what I should do at this moment with an empty net goal. Should I shoot the puck? Should I throw it away? And they're like, shoot. And he said, oh, I should probably shoot the puck like they're telling me.
Yep, exactly. It's it's funny. You look at these guys in the NHL that are, obviously elite athletes. They're part of that 0.001%, and somehow you get 20,000 beer managers in the stand telling him to shoot. I think he figured it out. No need to help. He's got it.
Exactly.
So a message to you, Jean-Luc, from Sandra. I really hope that Montreal gets to host the next NHL live draft. She had tickets to last year's draft, and it was canceled after she already got her plane tickets. So, yeah, that would be pretty cool if it made it back up to Montreal.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Obviously, it's not going to be this summer because Canada is still in somewhat of a lockdown. So, but yeah, maybe next year. Who knows?
Right.
And you said you live in Ohio now, not Canada, right?
Yeah. I live in. I'm actually in Columbus. So yeah, I've been there. I've been here since I first played for the Blue Jackets in 2000. And I guess as far as a permanent home, we never left. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel that's kind of what happened when I moved here. We came here after living in Washington for a year, and then we kind of just got stuck here.
Not a bad place to be stuck. Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth.
If my grandparents weren't here, I would beg my mom to move. My girlfriend but yeah. I have too much family and too many friends and my girlfriend here, so I probably won't leave anytime soon.
All right. So Jean-Luc, NHL analyst, former NHL player, and definitely a tough guy from some of the highlight videos I've watched. Tom Wilson. What is your perspective on that whole situation with the New York Rangers and that whole debacle that came about?
With Tom Wilson?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a debacle. I'm not going to lie. It's a tough one for me because I love Tom Wilson, the player. I think he's incredibly talented. I feel like Tom Wilson, unfortunately, is in the wrong era. Tom Wilson would have been great 20 years ago in the NHL, and I don't think he's adjusted his game quite yet to the new style. And I think the NHL has done a great job as far as selling the game, making it more exciting, less violent, more, skill oriented. And Tom definitely has skills. There's no doubt about it. But he's got some old school in him, and there's plenty of guys that have old school in them, but they're not 6'3", 230 like Tom Wilson is. And that is the problem with Tom Wilson is like he goes in any arena and he knows that he's not going to get challenged unless he plays certain teams. But it's just, it's like taking an 18-year-old and put him in a peewee game. When he's physically that dominating and he knows that there's no way to challenge him, he's going to take liberties. And, I think I don't know exactly how to word it, but I think if he can tame his character, and you don't want him to lose his edge because now he becomes a completely different player. But, sometimes I think the emotions get the best of him. And, every time the emotion gets the best of him, you take a skill guy that loses emotion, it might be a little slash. Well, Tom Wilson's going to run you over. And a lot of times, unfortunately, somebody's going to get hurt. So that's what it is. And I love his skill set. I think he just needs to tame his antics here and there.
Yeah, I agree. And anybody at that level has to be skilled to get to that level. There's no doubt about it. You don't get to the NHL whether you have skill or not. But then talking about a past Blue Jacket player, Foligno after the hit on Tavares, which hopefully Tavares is doing well out there and hopefully he's recovering very well.
Tavares plays for the Maple Leafs, right?
Yep. And that unfortunate accident a few days ago. There's a lot of skepticism out there, but I still think that Foligno, in my personal opinion, I think he did the right thing because it got that situation over. That injury to Tavares was not intentional in the least bit, but it didn't carry out throughout the rest of the game. It was that one fight with Foligno and Perry right after, and it was done after that. And I think that he did the right thing by dropping the gloves right away. But what is your thoughts on that?
Well, so it's funny. I talked to the Montreal media about this the other day, and here's the number one thing and again, I don't know if Nick Foligno even saw exactly what happened or any of the players. So we're home watching the game. We see the replay, and we see Perry accidentally, clearly it was accidental, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Hits him right in the head. As it happens in real time, you don't know that. And then the other thing is, the NHL has a rule that they don't show plays that where an injury occurred. They're not allowed to show that on the Jumbotron. And so that means that replay is not played in the arena. So these guys, they're hearing, well, it was accidental, but they don't know for sure. You know what I mean?
Right.
The iPad that they have on the bench is controlled by the league as well. So they're not necessarily seeing what happened. Yes, it's not free going. This is controlled by the league. Okay. So there's a lot of little things here that, first of all, I don't even know if Nick Foligno knew exactly what happened. He just knew his captain was down. There was a collision with Perry, and he took matters in his own hands. And then, you know what? After that, there was no cheap shot the rest of the game or anything like that. They just moved on and settled it. So was the reaction correct? I think you have to give him benefit of the doubt because we don't know exactly.
Right.
But one thing I know for sure, the replay was not on the board. So nobody, we're on Twitter, on Facebook. You can rewind it. You're watching the game on TV and they show it 6-7 times. They have no idea what happened. So
what happened?
So I don't have a problem with it.
Like what was the actual injury? Like what?
So John Tavares near the blue line got checked down.
Don't explain it in too much detail. I don't like that.
So he went down to the ice. As he was laying down, Corey Perry was skating by really fast, and he jumped to kind of avoid him laying down, but his knee clipped his face, and Tavares just went down really hard, and it was very, very, very bad to watch.
Is it like a concussion?
I don't know the extent. I don't think they've really released unless you have a little insight on that as to far as what the extent of his injuries were.
Yeah, I have no insight, but yeah, I would assume that he was concussed.
At least a concussion.
He was trying to get up. Yeah, the way he was trying to get up and he was all like spinning out. There's no way it was not some kind of trauma, right?
I'll have to show you the replay after this show.
Not watching it.
So a couple questions from some audience members here.
I don't like that kind of stuff.
Infamous Hockey is one of our sponsors, and I think we're referring back to the Tom Wilson conversation. But do you think that the $5,000 fine was enough, especially after seeing the recent suspensions?
Well, we just saw. Wait, was it Nazem Kadri just got 8 games?
Kadri.
Yeah, he's got 8 games. So unfortunately, the $5,000 fine is an agreement between the NHL and the Players Association. That's the maximum you can fine someone unless it's suspension, which at this point you lose pay. In the playoff, there's no pay, so you're really not losing anything. For Tom Wilson, yeah, $5,000 is pocket change, literally, but that's the maximum they can fine him. So yes, I think there should have been a couple game suspension for that.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, to hit somebody when they're down like that, the way he did is just that's losing your cool on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lose my cool when I play Rocket League. I get so mad at Rocket League.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but yeah, going back on Tom Wilson, I've always actually really liked Tom Wilson as a player. Like I didn't when I first started watching him, I didn't realize how much of a physically dominating player he was. And then slowly, as I kept watching him, I realized, oh my God, this guy is insane.
Yeah, he's definitely has. He's got the speed. He's got good hands. A good shot. Is it elite? No, but he's a guy that can put the puck in the net and create a lot with his speed. Every single shift he's on the ice. And trust me, if you're a defenseman or forward and you play against the Washington Capitals, you keep an eye when Tom Wilson's on the ice because something's going to happen. And that's what makes him. It gives him more room on the ice too, because a lot of people are like a little fearful of that. So I love that edge. It's just that sometimes, he pushes the envelope a little too much.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'd still take him on my team any day of the week.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I realize as well is that a lot of these players, these generational players, are starting to age out. Like TJ Oshie, Patrick Kane, and all of them. Ovechkin, they're all in or Sidney Crosby as well. They're all in their 30s. They're gonna probably be retiring soon. So I think that another thing that's definitely in the NHL's future is probably almost an entire NHL rebuild for like the stars of the teams. And bringing in a lot more young talent, like the kid who was compared. You remember they had a picture of Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin looking at their quote unquote younger selves, and Sidney Crosby was looking at Connor Bedard, and then Ovechkin was looking at some Russian kid. I don't know what his name started with, like an N, but I don't know how to pronounce it.
I keep forgetting.
I know he was just at the U18 dominating with Bedard there. So yeah, they're two great players. But you know what? There's a generation that's starting to move on, getting older. But the youth in the NHL more than ever is so promising because there's so many young elite players, and they're coming on early on. You look at guys like, Sebastian Aho and the Sveshnikov of this world, and, obviously McDavid, McKinnon. I mean, there's so many young players that are, not even, they're 26 or younger that are dominating already. So the league's in good hand as far as future stars. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
See all these like amazing players. You named a couple like Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid is just absolutely insane. I mean, what the
Right.
54 games and 105 points. Honestly,
Yeah, it's great.
So
I don't even get that.
I'm not sure who this is. This is somebody off of your hockey team, Mission
that's Dylan
77. Who?
Dylan Farber.
Dylan Farber. He has got a question for you. What number were you in the NHL, and what was the reason for it?
So I grew up being number 4 because I was just a defenseman, and it was like the number that they kind of assigned to me. And then my first year pro, actually, I was number 4 in Rochester. And then when I got called up to Buffalo, Mike Wilson was wearing number 4 already. So they're like, hey, you need a new number. 4 is taken. I was like, I'll just make it 34. And that's literally how I ended up with 34. And I kept it the rest of my career. That's it.
That's a pretty simple answer. Kind of the way it shook out, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of a lot of like so you see some of these players having like really deep meaning behind it. Like so when I was supposed to play high school, I was supposed to wear the number 7 because my grandma passed away in August, and I think I was supposed to play like September.
Yes.
Yeah, September.
Season starts in September.
Yeah, the season started in September. And so we already had everything finalized before I broke my leg with all of it. And so I was going to wear number 7 because my grandma passed away, and her birthday was May 7th. And then for my travel team, I was going to wear number 84 because 84 was just a number I wore the year before that playing house league. And it was just a number that I liked.
Yeah, it's I've never loved high numbers myself. I remember my first exhibition game with Buffalo. I had 68, and I was like, "What the heck is going on? 68? That's not a defenseman's number, first of all." And I swear, we were playing in Cleveland. It was an exhibition game, and we're playing at Pittsburgh. And Jaromir Jagr is on the ice for this exhibition game with number 68, and I'm on the face-off dot in the defensive zone right next to him, and I'm feeling like the biggest tool. Like here I am playing against one of the great players in the NHL. There's no other 60 in the league, and there I was in training camp with that number, and I was like, right after that pregame, I went to our trainer. I was like, "There's no I can't keep this number." And he's like, "Don't worry, kid. Next year when you come to camp and you make the team, we'll give you a new number." I was like, "Thank you."
And then you went on later on to play with Yammer in I think it was in Washington, wasn't it?
No, he was gone when I got there, so I did not play with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it Yager who's coming back? Or is
He's still playing, but he's playing, I think, overseas somewhere right now.
Yeah. There's a player who's coming back to the Red Wings, right? Yzerman, that's who I'm thinking of.
Well, he's not coming back to play.
Oh, I thought he was. What is he coming back to do, Coach?
Yeah, he's their general manager for the team.
Oh, I must have gotten that confused.
I think so.
Yeah. Told you I blank out sometimes.
So Sanders says the CHL has enough players ready and able to replace the hockey greats. It's a well-oiled development machine that ensures the world never has a shortage of phenomenal professional players in the NHL. That's true. A lot of players do come out of the Canadian system, but I'm really curious to see how this next year is going to shake out with Canada being on such a tight lockdown for COVID and their players not being able to come down to the skates down in the States.
You want to know what I see, or what I kind of find a little funny, though? You see all these people come in from Canada who play hockey. But then I think, if I'm not mistaken, the past every single time for like the past 3 years that the USA has played Canada in the finals, we beat them. That we've played them. Not when they played Russia. Not when they played Russia.
John-Luc, feel free to school him right now.
Listen, you cannot talk bad about Canada because that's still my country. So I will say USA Hockey has done a great job, honestly, as far as growing the sport and really like developing really good players. But yeah, let's leave it at that. It's a fair. Those games are great to watch, but you know what? I wouldn't say one is better than the other.
I will tell you.
I agree with that. Because, but hold up, let me finish this real quick. So I definitely can agree with you, because in hockey it's such a diverse sport, and with each country it has their diverse types of hockey. Like we had Christian Nagy on the other day, and he said that playing overseas in Hungary is a more skill-based gameplay with more room because the rinks are bigger. And he came out to play here, and it was a lot harder to play because America plays a very physical game of hockey. And so I feel like that's kind of the same thing with Canada, if I'm not mistaken. We play a little bit more of a physical game, which is kind of why I think we won the World Juniors, only because we kind of were able to shut down Canada in a sense, where we put up those 2 quick points and we're kind of able to just hold them off, you know?
Yeah, I think Canada. So the U.S. and Canada historically, Canada has always been the most physical team, just because there's a lot of farmers out west from Canada. But the game is becoming less and less physical and more skill based, and I think that's where the U.S. were a little ahead of the game by and that's why you see more and more Canadian players play in the NCAA now. College hockey, it used to be a big no-no. Like I remember growing up, they're like, dude, if you want to make it to the NHL, don't go play college hockey. There's no chance. Because even my first couple year pro, you'd see a NCAA guy, on the ice, and you just try to abuse him because you knew he played with a full cage. And that was like the old school thinking of Canadian thing, right? But now the game is so skill-based. You see a lot of good Canadian players coming down to the States to play college instead of the junior hockey, because you get a chance to develop a little bit more in your skills. There's less games, but, here's the thing. Junior hockey, you play 72 games a season. College hockey, you play 35. So it depends. Do you need to strengthen your body and you need all that training, or do you need to play games to prepare for the pro game? So it's really your choice which one you want to go. But now, as a parent today, if my son was like, hey, should I go play junior or NCAA? I'd tell them NCAA 100%. Go get your education. You get 4 years. If things turn out great and you want to, skip your last year and play pro, so be it. But for me, I think NCAA has done a great job, and that's all tribute to USA Hockey for the way to develop the game here.
Yeah, I feel like NCAA like hockey has definitely made the game a lot better than it used to be. Like you see colleges, I feel like are a lot more involved with the players than they really used to be, and are really turning out with really generational players, kind of like Sandra was saying. Like there's a lot of really good players who are coming up from playing college hockey or even junior hockey.
Yeah.
Speaking of Canada, USA, the World Games, man, Canada dominated the 18Us. Like their skill in the younger generation is unmatched. In fact, here in a couple hours, we're going to have the goalie for Team Canada, Ben Goudreau, coming on our show, who won the gold. And I bet he'll go early in the draft this year. That kid has got some skill for the goalie that he is.
Goalie is really hard because I feel like goalie is a really hard position to make it in, because you have a small amount of goalies, but every single goalie who makes it up to those higher levels, all is really good. But every single goalie has a different play style. I think that's what's really amazing about hockey, is like every player has a different style of playing the game, and that's what makes every player unique. Like, obviously Ovechkin plays a different game than Connor McDavid, because Connor McDavid plays more fast, dangle highlights, pretty goals, and Ovechkin just takes, 100-mile-an-hour shots at the net, And so I think it's just really cool seeing all the diversity, and I think that's also why it's so hard to make it in hockey, because you have so many like different areas to master, and you have to be able to actually produce in those areas as well.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you have to adjust your game too, because trust me, and that's the one thing, everybody is talented. Even if you go to the American League, all these guys are super talented, and the difference between the NHL player and the guy that played, junior and didn't get drafted is so minimal. But a lot of these guys, by the time they get the NHL, they change their role. Like, trust me, all the guys you see in the NHL right now, they all used to be danglers, and they scored, 40 goals a year in high school, and it was easy for them. And then they get to the NHL, and slowly but surely, all of a sudden, they become a defensive specialist that just win face-off, and they end up with 5, 6, maybe 10 points a year. It's just, that's what they had to do to make it to the NHL, because if it was just about skills and skating, the NHL would have like 100 teams out there. But that's why these guys are the best of the best, is because, the fourth line players in the NHL, at some point in his career, he scored 50 goals in the league. I'm telling you that right now. That's how good these guys are. But a lot of people don't understand that.
Exactly.
Right.
Like you can put up, what's his name? Vinny Hinostroza from the Arizona Coyotes. I remember William showing me a shootout goal that he scored, and it was beautiful. Like, it was a really good goal that he scored. But he doesn't play on the top line for the Coyotes. But then you see how amazing his skills are. And that's just crazy to me. Like, you see all these really, 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 really good players playing at lower ends, when, like, if he was playing in what's the league? The AHL, right?
The AHL.
Yeah, if he was playing in the AHL, he would dominate as a first-line player, but he's playing in the NHL, and he's, like, running third, fourth line. And it's just weird because, like, and also another weird thing is the Lightning, because you see the Lightning playing top-end players in the NHL on their fourth line because they just have that much talent built up in their team. I mean, if any team could probably bring it back-to-back, it's definitely going to be the Lightning. They're so good.
Absolutely.
Because you've seen, like, they have so much revenue coming in from the actual just normal season. They did it right this year, and they just have an absolutely amazing team put behind them. with amazing leadership on the team as well for their captain. And then they just have an amazing organization all around. Like the ownership and the coaching and everything is just perfect. I think they really put it together for the Lightning after getting completely choked the year before they won the Stanley Cup, and then just coming back and taking it home is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool to see how they were able to manage all this salary cap stuff, which it's kind of funny because their salary cap guru there, Matthew Darch, that works with Julien Brisebois, he was a high school teammate of mine in high school. So him and I went to the same high school, and we actually he played a couple of games with Columbus, but he was mostly in the minor leagues. But now he's an assistant GM and doing a great job crunching numbers to make it happen. So
I know. Right. People don't see how much it really takes to make a team like that. Like, we were talking about it the other day with one of our podcast people, and they said that the Lightning is closer to the super team that the NHL has seen in a while. And a lot of what people see are the players putting up the big numbers, but they don't see like the people in the backgrounds. I mean, the Zamboni drivers, the people who get everybody in there. And like you said, the GMs just crunching numbers, letting them have all these amazing players to put it together, all of these wins and these Stanley Cups and stuff. So I think that we should really acknowledge every single person who makes it possible. Kind of like what Wayne Gretzky used to do. Whenever he went to an organization and left, he'd sign a stick and tape a stick for every single person who worked there, even if you took out the trash.
That's awesome.
Speaking of the best Zamboni drivers, I think Carolina has by far the best Zamboni driver out there. If he can go in and play goal and win an NHL game, that man has my vote for NHL Zamboni driver of the year. So speaking of the AHL, I don't know if you'll remember this name or not, but Sean McMorrow, we were on his podcast. He played in Buffalo early 2000s, and he mentioned you one time when I was talking to him, that he was playing an AHL game with Rochester and they were going up against you guys. And he's like, man, Jean-Luc Grand Pierre, like, here's this big NHL superstar and we're getting to play against him. Like, that was a good memory for him that he had of you. But with the AHL, you had one in the All-Stars, a speed skating competition, correct?
Yes.
So what did you do to get yourself to there, and how did you become the fastest skater in the AHL that year?
So I first disclosure, I did not sign myself up for this one. Bill Barber, who was the Philadelphia coach at the time, he was coaching it was like Team USA, and then we had Team like Continental. No, it was Team USA, and then Europe versus Team Canada. So I was on Team Canada. And Bill Barber was coaching Philadelphia. I was playing in Rochester at the time, and we played against him all the time. So, and I came in, and he's like, yeah, you got to be the fastest skater. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. I'm like, like Marty St. Louis was on our team. Like, we had a lot of fast guys. Like, yeah, he's like, Marty's going to do the relay, but you're faster than Marty straight ahead. I was like, okay, sure. So he put me in that, and then he put me in the hardest shot as well. And, we just... it was just like one of these things where I was like, well, might as well go hard and then go home with just one lap. So, and I pulled it off. So it was, it was a pretty cool feeling. I'm not going to lie to you, but it was not something that I expected to do or practiced for. It was literally just me walking in the locker room the day of the All-Star competition, and I saw my name on the board, and I was like, oh gosh, my fear was just I'm gonna blow a wheel in the corner and fall on the board or something like that.
Oh yeah, that would be terrible. Just coming around the corner, going super fast, about to break the record, and then just douche. I'm pretty sure that happened one of the years in like 2019. This kid was coming around, and I think he made it around the first corner, but then the second one he just ate it. But they let him do a redo.
Yeah, but it's like, and unless you've played hockey, you don't understand how fast you really can go when you're pushing yourself. And like I remember it was like 20,000 people in the crowd, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna put on a show, and I'm going. You start like, straight, and the first turn it's not bad because you didn't pick up all your speed quite yet, but by the second turn I'm like, oh boy. I hope the trainer sharpened my skates right, because if he messed up, I'm gonna eat that board real hard. But
Yeah.
I made it.
At that time, you put a lot of faith in that trainer's hands.
That's right.
Yeah, I've had that happen before. I remember one time at a public skate, I was practicing my crossovers with no gear on, and I went around and I caught a divot because some kid was doing some stupid stuff, and I caught a divot in the ice, and I didn't realize how fast I was going, so I just fell, just let myself slide instead of like stopping with on my knee or something like that, and I just let myself slide, and then I look back and I'm right by the boards, and then I smack into the boards, and I got the wind knocked out of me. It didn't hurt that bad, but I was like, oh, definitely stopping myself next time. That was bad.
Yeah, for sure.
So, growing up in Buffalo, I'm going to go back to your time in Buffalo. You were obviously a defenseman for the Buffalo Sabres, playing alongside probably the hardest guy ever to play hockey to understand, Dominic Hasek. How did you understand him during games when he would he direct his defensemen what he needed you guys to do, or what was it like? Because I could never understand him talk.
He was not much of a talker. Dom was, he would talk to you like before games and then after games. He didn't really talk between periods. And then on the ice, it was pretty simple. The number one thing with Dom is he hated if you laid down to block shots in front of him, which Jamie Key used to do all the time. But he did not like people blocking shots. He was like, just let me make the stop. That's what I'm getting paid for. And that's all he wanted. I mean, probably the biggest competitor I've ever played with or against, as far as like a true superstar that would stop at nothing to make a save. It didn't matter if it was practice or a game. He was literally 100% all the time. And I'm literally not joking when I'm saying that. Like, people see him throw his glove and his stick. Sometime in practice on a simple 2-on-1, he would throw his blocker out and play without a glove, like it was a game. And, you know, we had to blow the coach had to blow the whistle. It's like, you're Dominic Hasek. What are you doing throwing your glove out to make a save in practice? But that's just how he was wired. He was a different breed, that's for sure.
He was incredible.
And you see some of the saves he makes. I think my favorite save that he ever made was when he skated out at that guy when he was coming on a breakaway and just flipped him over the top of him. I think that was the best. That was so funny to watch. They were like, that's going to be on every NHL highlight reel for the next 20 years. It was just so funny to watch him. I mean, you want to know what would have been really cool? If the guy who got flipped stuck the landing. That would have been cool. I saw a video, and it was like hockey TikToks, and this guy did a backflip on the ice and actually landed it. Like, I could barely jump 3 feet in the air anymore after I broke my leg, let alone do a backflip. Like, I could do a backflip on a trampoline, and I used to be able to do it on, like, the pads on a trampoline, so without a bounce. But I could never do a backflip even before I broke my leg on the ice. That would be that sounds like a bad idea.
You could, if you practice.
Well, yeah, but how do you even practice something like that?
Hey, he found a way to do it, so it's doable for sure. You know, it's like, just like some people probably watch you play hockey, it's like, I don't understand how you skate. Like, that's impossible. How do you skate and like shoot a puck at the same time? It's impossible for someone, it's possible for you. So it's just about putting your mind to it. So if you want to do that flick, you probably can. It's just, learning how to do it and then practicing, and then 3 years from now, you're doing double flips backward on the ice. You never know.
Yeah, that is true.
If you ever pull that off, you have to call this man personally and thank him for that motivation, because I would never tell you to do that.
I remember
that's scary.
I went to Memphis when I was going to Mississippi. We stopped at Memphis because we were going to Plantersville, Mississippi. And so, because that's where my family lives. And we stopped in Memphis and we saw these street performers, and they took like 6 or 7 volunteers and had them stand like with their backs arched down, like trying to touch your toes, basically, like that. And it was like downhill. And so they did a backflip, and cleared all of the people with like, I think 4 or 5 feet to spare on it. And I was like, holy crap, how do you even jump that high?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, they did like a
some freaks out
cartwheel.
there.
Yeah, they did like a cartwheel, and then they just went like 30 feet in the air and did a backflip over all these people. I was like, bro, how? Like I could do a double backflip on a trampoline, and there is not a chance I would ever do that over somebody.
Right.
That's crazy. So I think recently, we're getting close towards the end here, but one last thing I want to end with is I think you did for your daughter's school, it looked like, a whole speech and presentation on the science of hockey.
Ooh.
Can you tell us about what the science of hockey is and what it means? Like, what was that all about?
So it's this thing that the Columbus Blue Jackets put together every year. Blue Jackets do a lot of things in the community, whether it's with schools or communities, and that one was basically for like middle school, and it was just to make it fun. Over the last few years, we had the presentation was done at the arena, so it would take like probably like a couple hundred kids, bring them in the arena, and they would go on the ice, and then they would talk to the guy, the manager of the ice. That talk to them about how they keep the ice to a certain temperature, how they create the ice, the Zamboni, all that stuff, and then they did some scientific things with the pucks, shooting the pucks and looking at the velocity and stuff like that. So that's a program like that they had, and then this year because of COVID. You have to do it a little differently. So my daughter happened to be a school teacher, so I went to her school and we took some of that curriculum that they created and did it basically on a PowerPoint presentation. So that's basically all it was. It was just to make everybody understand that there's physics and science in anything that you do, and including hockey, whether you talk about body check or just creating the ice, and how do you keep the ice solid when it's 70 degrees outside and somehow the ice is still there. It's so those are the things that we were talking about in there.
They keep it solid because they have pipes that run underneath of it that freeze it, right? Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, the piping underneath is the key.
Yeah, and then the another key is the way that you could tell like a cheap rink to like an NHL rink is the NHL rinks have concrete underneath of them, and then like a rink that's just for like kids or something, like just a normal rink has dirt under it, and that dirt expands, and that's what causes like divots in the ice, right?
Yeah, I think they do like sand base, which is going away more and more. It's cheaper because concrete, when it starts cracking, it's really expensive to redo. But I know here in Columbus, they got concrete everywhere now. They had one that still had the sand base, and they got rid of it because it's a maintenance nightmare.
Yeah, cause I think that when it freezes, it like expands the sand, and then it causes like these divots. Because that's what happened at my rink until they redid it. The kids who said that they skated before, they said that it got so bad that you would literally like feel like a little jump coming on when you would hit some of these big spots. And I was like, oh my goodness! And then they finally redid it, and now it's perfect.
Right.
But everybody makes fun of the ice I skate at because it's really bad. But I love it there.
You know what? It's not easy to get ice in Arizona. You guys should be just thankful to have something to skate on, to be honest.
Exactly. I love my rink, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, honestly. I mean, that's where I grew up skating, and yeah, I love it there. Well, not grew up skating. I mean, like that's where I started skating. I probably shouldn't say grew up.
You've grown up a lot in the last 2 years.
I know. I'm a big boy now.
Well, Jean-Luc Grand Pierre, it's been amazing having you on. Some great hockey talk and some insights, and just to kind of share your story with everybody, how you came up. Any parting words for everybody watching out there, or what your advice would be to them?
No, not really. I think, like I said, when we first started, whether it's hockey, baseball, studies, it doesn't matter what it is, just backflips on the ice, put your mind to it. And impossible is only, there's only one person that's going to create impossible. It's yourself. So if you want to make it happen, find a way and it will happen. So, within reason. But again, a backflip on the ice is not that crazy, and I'm sure it can be achieved. So,
have you ever actually seen anybody do that?
Me, not in person.
I've seen figure skaters do it.
Wow.
I actually did figure skating for a year, so I've definitely seen it, but it's not something that I personally tried or want to try, to be honest.
There was a lady, and she would do. They actually banned it in the Olympics, but she would do a backflip into her jumps, and she would win like every time. It was amazing. I watched one of them, and I was like, "Bro, how did she land that so clean?"
Yeah, the backflip is not authorized in Olympic competition. You can do it as a pro, but you can't do it as an amateur. It's fine. Yeah, it's crazy. Different rules.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up the show here. We'll throw you down real quick, and if you want to hang out for a few minutes, we can chat after the show. But it's been an honor having you on. I appreciate your time today, and we definitely look forward to maybe doing this again.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Jean-Luc. Have a great afternoon.
All right, guys, that was Jean-Luc Grand Pierre. That was an amazing podcast. So today, I don't know what time, don't quote me on it, but we are going to bring the goalie on from the gold medal game. They actually won the gold medal, so I'm super excited to talk about it. And this guy right here won't be in here because we're bringing my friend Ollie onto the show. And so we're going to have him on there. But without further ado, guys, I will see you on our next podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing day, guys.
You've been practicing. That was much better.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wait. There you go. See, I need to practice.
William's got to step it up.
All right. We'll see everybody back here in less than 3 hours for our next show, brought to you by Blade Tech Hockey and Infamous Hockey. Bye-bye.